You did a really, really good job. And that's something that we're going to have to continue to utilize, right? We did a great job. 11 offensive rebounds. We outscored them on second chance points. 21 assists on 33 made field goals. Yo, shot distribution was really good. Just overall, like, strong team effort. We've talked about it all year. We're resilient and we're deep. And both of those things allow us to do some things that other people might not think we can, right? We are bigger. We are greater than the me. Yep. No.
Picture this. Your biggest superstar is sitting on the bench in street clothes, and every expert is predicting your team will crumble without her. Then you go out and absolutely annihilate your biggest rival by 22 points, breaking 6 franchise records in the process, while making their so-called rookie sensation look completely helpless. That's exactly what just happened when the Indiana Fever turned what should have been a vulnerable moment into the most dominant performance of their season, leaving Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky in absolute shambles. The basketball world was watching closely when the Indiana Fever stepped...
Yet again, the Indiana Fever faced the Chicago Sky, and yet again, we whoop that. Oh boy. 92-70, it was a whole...
onto the court without Caitlin Clark, their electrifying rookie phenom who had been carrying the team all season long. Critics were sharpening their knives, ready to prove that Indiana was nothing more than a one-woman show. Chicago saw blood in the water, thinking this was their perfect opportunity to finally get revenge against a team that had been tormenting them all year. What they got instead was a masterclass.
Coach could really use a bucket here just to maintain stride for stride with Indiana here. Cardoso, they go inside. She's been the most sure option. This time blocked by Boston.
Team basketball that left everyone's jaws on the floor. From the opening tip, something felt different about this Fever squad. They moved with a purpose that went beyond just trying to survive without their star. This was a team with something to prove, and they were about to prove it in the most spectacular way possible. The statistics tell an incredible story of execution and teamwork. 11 offensive rebounds gave them second and third chances that Chicago simply couldn't match. 21 assists on 33 made field goals, meant nearly every basket was the result.
Aaliyah Boston, she remembers the days at South Carolina. The practices at South Carolina, beating up on good old Camila Cardoso. She sees Camila Cardoso and she says, oh, this is food. This is a player, this is a matchup I can continue to be aggressive on. This is a player that no matter how good Camila may be, or may not be, I will always be able to own her. And own her she did. Own her.
Unselfish, beautiful basketball. The shot distribution was so balanced, it looked like a textbook example of how the game should be played. But numbers only tell part of the story. What really stood out was the mentality this team brought to the floor. They embraced a philosophy that would define the entire night. We are bigger, we are greater than the me. This wasn't just a catchy slogan painted on a locker room wall.
All time in Fever for franchise blocks.
This was a group of players who genuinely believed that their collective talent could overcome any individual absence, no matter how significant that absence might be. The final score read Indiana Fever 92, Chicago Sky 70, a 22-point demolition that broke 6 different records and left absolutely no doubt about which team controlled this rivalry. Aaliyah Boston stepped into...
Not afraid to start the break, 2-on-4. The math doesn't work out. Cunningham thought about it. Kicks it up top. Boston handing off to Mitchell. Mitchell, plenty of space. This time back to Boston. Boston, whoa, moving furniture and getting the...
spotlight, and reminded everyone why she was considered one of the most dominant defensive forces in the league. Lexi Hull exploded for a career night that announced her arrival as a legitimate star. Kelsey Mitchell orchestrated the offense like a seasoned veteran, while putting up scoring numbers that had the entire WNBA taking notice. Even Michaela Timpson, playing limited minutes, made every second count with career-high rebounds.
Coming off the screen, trying to create some separation. Dumps it up to Boston. It trickles in.
Rebounding that energized the entire building. This wasn't just a win. This was a statement that echoed throughout the arena and sent shockwaves across social media. Chicago came in thinking they could take advantage of a weakened opponent. But instead they walked into a buzzsaw that left them looking completely overmatched and utterly demoralized. The paint belonged to Aaliyah Boston from the moment the game began, and Chicago learned that lesson.
100th career steal.
Yeah!
And team high points.
Yeah!
The hard way, over and over again. Every time they tried to attack the rim, they found themselves staring at a defensive wall that seemed impossible to breach. Boston didn't just block shots. She erased them so completely that offensive players started second-guessing themselves before they even made their move toward the basket. What made Boston's performance even more remarkable was the historical significance of what she accomplished. Moving into third place all-time in Indiana Fever franchise history for career blocks isn't just a nice milestone.
Williams gonna have to hurry off the dribble, rolls out. Oh, open three. Oh, what a sight for Alexi Hull. She has needed that one to drop.
Alexi Hull catching fire.
Now Chicago just needs to get it a little bit more settled here in the half court. Nurse loses it. Mitchell 2-on-1. It's a foot race. Mitchell to Cunningham.
It's a testament to sustained excellence that few players ever achieve. 132 blocks in just 112 games means she's averaging well over a block per contest while maintaining the kind of defensive discipline that coaches dream about. This isn't a player who gambles and leaves her teammates exposed. This is someone who reads the game perfectly, times her jumps flawlessly, and makes opponents pay for even thinking.
Again, no Sydney Colson out for the year with the ACL tear. Lexi Hull, though, the bucket and the foul. He's dealt with so much scoring adversity lately.
Yeah, terrific baseline execution. She comes off the curl. Tell you what, this Fever team is going to be very dangerous, no matter the roster.
Oh, Lexi Hull! Heat checking her napalm era right now.
Thinking about challenging her. The doubters had convinced themselves that without Caitlin Clark's defensive intensity and court awareness, the Fever's paint protection would crumble. They thought Chicago's bigger players would finally have room to operate and dominate inside. Instead, Boston turned the restricted area into her personal no-fly zone, swatting away shot attempts with such authority that the psychological impact was visible almost immediately. Chicago players started pulling up for awkward mid-range jumpers rather than risk another humiliating rejection at the rim. But Boston's dominance went deeper than just individual statistics. There's a personal history here that made every blocked shot even sweeter.
It kind of felt like the perfect end of that night. Just if you could just talk to me about the celebration, how much of a relief that was for you, just kind of to punctuate it like that.
I mean, it's fun. You know, that the crowd was behind us today. It's fun to walk out of the gym on a high note and on a make. And yeah, I mean, I saw the time going down, so I was trying to pull out my inner Kelsey Mitchell.
Back at South Carolina, Boston used to go against Camila Cardoso in practice every single day, learning exactly how to neutralize her game and exploit her weaknesses. When Boston saw Cardoso on the opposing roster, it wasn't intimidation she felt, it was opportunity. She knew every tendency, every move, every weakness that Cardoso tried to hide. The result was a masterclass in preparation meeting execution, with Boston completely owning a matchup that Chicago desperately needed to win. The timing of each block was absolutely perfect. Boston doesn't just swat shots wildly.
Money Mitch, she brought the shovels out early. Money Mitch digging a
hope for the best. She studies film, understands shooting angles, and positions herself exactly where she needs to be to make the biggest possible impact. By the second half, Chicago's offensive players were visibly frustrated, settling for shots they didn't want to take because getting near the basket felt like walking into a trap. Every successful defensive possession became fuel for Indiana's transition offense, creating easy scoring opportunities that stretched their...
And we got a couple for Kels. Kels, season high in assists. And moved into the lead in the entire WNBA for total points.
Shout out to the girls.
Lead and deflated Chicago's confidence even further. This wasn't just about stopping Chicago from scoring. It was about completely disrupting their offensive rhythm and forcing them into the kind of desperate, disjointed basketball that leads to blowout defeats. Boston's milestone achievement represented more than just individual excellence.
More settled here in the half court. Nurse loses it. Mitchell 2-on-1. It's a foot race. Mitchell to Cunningham. Cunningham right there for 2 more.
In a rivalry game with playoff implications on the line, she delivered a performance that will be remembered long after the final buzzer. The 22-point margin of victory wasn't an accident. It was the direct result of one player completely dominating her matchup and setting the tone for an entire team's defensive effort. While Boston was erasing shot attempts in the paint, Lexi Hull was busy making history of her own on both ends of the floor, achieving career milestones on defense, while simultaneously torching the scoreboard is the kind of rare two-way excellence that separates good players from
Career high in rebounds.
great ones. Hull's 100th career steal wasn't just a nice round number. It was proof that she had developed into the kind of complete player who could impact winning in multiple ways. The circumstances made Hull's breakout performance even more impressive. With Caitlin Clark sidelined and key rotation players like Ari McDonald and Sydney Carlson out for the entire season with injuries, Hull is asked to
Off the screen, trying to create some separation. 2 come, dumps it up to Boston. It trickles in.
shoulder responsibilities that would challenge any player: floor stretching, perimeter defense, offensive facilitation. These weren't just additional duties tacked onto her regular role. These were make or break responsibilities that could determine whether Indiana survived without their superstar or collapsed under the pressure. Hull responded with the kind of performance that transforms careers overnight. 17 points on 5 of 9 shooting would be impressive enough, but doing it while knocking down 4 of 6 3-point attempts turned a good night into an absolutely spectacular one. Each
Thought about it this time, puts it on the deck. A deflection, bodies flying to the floor. Mitchell controls, 8 to shoot. Mitchell, hesitation in the paint. The floater off the window.
And here is Kelsey Mitchell getting downhill. Little sidestep into the floater.
Pivoting, pirouetting, tough shot, well defended. Mitchell trying to attack Allen. Step back tray. Mitchell buries it.
three-pointer felt like a dagger, piercing Chicago's hopes of a competitive game. The timing was perfect, the execution was flawless, and the impact was devastating. Chicago's coaching staff tried everything to slow down Hull's hot shooting. They ran defenders at her off screens. They switched multiple times to put different looks on her, and they even tried doubling her on some possessions. Nothing worked.
This was a steady beatdown from start to finish. Every quarter, we build the lead, we add more, we add more, we add more, and the next thing you know, you look up and the Indiana Fever have a lead of 25 points. Chicago Sky suck. We need to beat the teams we're supposed to beat. And the Chicago Sky are one of those.
Hull's release was too quick, her confidence was too high, and her teammates were finding her in perfect positions to succeed. When a shooter gets locked in the way Hull was locked in, defensive schemes become irrelevant because the ball is going in regardless of the coverage. The fourth quarter three-pointer from way beyond the arc wasn't just a shot that extended the lead. It was a moment that perfectly captured the difference between these two teams. Hull had the confidence to pull up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of this group. I think we've shown all season long, like, they're resilient, they're connected, they pull for each other, they enjoy one another, they celebrate one another, and, that stuff alone is good for 10 to 12 points a game. And, for this group, the way that they share the ball, how unselfish they are. I mean, I'm really proud of them. It's not been ideal circumstances all season long, but they've shown the character of who they are. They've been resilient. They've responded to adversity, and they continue to elevate one another. And, I couldn't be more proud of this group than I am.
Deep range with the game already decided, showing the kind of killer instinct that championship teams need from their role players. Chicago could only watch helplessly as their deficit grew larger and their hopes of a comeback disappeared completely. But Hull's defensive impact was equally impressive and equally important. That 100th career steal came from reading the play perfectly, anticipating where the ball handler wanted to go, and making a clean strike.
Who we have as human beings. That was one of the things that we made a priority in the off season of, who we bring into this organization. Number one, quality human beings, selfless human beings that want to pull for one another, that understand. We have this depth for a reason, and sometimes it creates challenges getting people on the floor. But in situations like this is why you have it. And I'm just, she's right. I mean, as a pro. And as a pro coach, this is one of the most connected groups.
It immediately flipped possession back to Indiana. This wasn't a lucky bounce or a desperate gamble that happened to work out. This was smart, disciplined defense from a player who had clearly put in the work to understand opposing offenses and exploit their weaknesses. Her teammates' confidence in Hull's shooting ability became contagious throughout the entire roster. When players trust each other to make shots, ball movement becomes crisp, spacing becomes optimal, and offensive flow reaches another level entirely. Hull had earned that trust through countless hours of preparation and consistent performance, and now she was cashing in on that investment in the biggest possible way. The transformation from role player to momentum shifter was complete. Hull wasn't just maintaining Indiana's lead or providing adequate minutes while stars rested. She was actively extending advantages, demoralizing opponents, and turning what could have been a competitive game into a public embarrassment for Chicago. When role players step up this dramatically in crucial moments, it sends a message to the entire league about organizational depth and championship potential. Kelsey Mitchell chose this exact moment to remind everyone why she's considered one of the most versatile offensive weapons in professional basketball. Taking on dual responsibilities as both the team's leading scorer and primary playmaker could have overwhelmed most players, but Mitchell made it look natural and effortless. 26 points combined with a season-high 8 assists put her at the top of the WNBA scoring leaderboard, while showcasing the kind of complete floor game that elite players possess. The balancing act Mitchell performed was absolutely masterful. She had to hunt her own shot aggressively enough to keep Chicago's defense honest, while simultaneously creating opportunities for teammates who were stepping into expanded roles. Early in the first quarter, she drove hard into the lane, drew 2 defenders, and kicked the ball out to Lexi Hull for a wide-open three-pointer that set the tone for the entire evening. This wasn't just a simple pass. It was a momentum-creating play that got the crowd involved and put Chicago on their heels immediately. Later in the game, Mitchell ran a perfectly executed pick and roll with Aaliyah Boston that resulted in a beautiful lob for an easy layup. These weren't basic basketball plays run by players going through the motions. These were precision executions that required timing, trust, and basketball intelligence from multiple players working in perfect harmony. Sophie Cunningham's ability to handle point guard duties on certain possessions gave Mitchell the flexibility to slide back into pure attack mode without sacrificing ball movement or offensive flow. This kind of positional versatility made Indiana's offense nearly impossible to game plan against because Chicago never knew what look they were going to see from possession to possession. Sometimes Mitchell was creating scoring opportunities for teammates with no-look passes and perfectly weighted lobs. Other times she was sprinting off screens for quick pull-up jumpers that found nothing but net. The Chicago Sky's coaching staff couldn't adjust to something they couldn't predict, and Mitchell took full advantage of their confusion. The season-high assist total proved that Mitchell had evolved far beyond just being a scorer who could get hot from three-point range. This was a complete floor general who understood how to manipulate defenses, create advantages for teammates, and still get her own high-quality scoring opportunities. Moving to the top of the WNBA scoring leaderboard, while simultaneously facilitating at an elite level, is the kind of two-way impact that defines championship-level players. Mitchell's leadership extended beyond statistics into the realm of pure basketball instincts. She knew when to push the pace in transition, when to slow things down and run half-court sets, and when to take over scoring responsibilities to prevent any potential Chicago momentum swings. This kind of game management typically takes years to develop, but Mitchell was displaying veteran-level decision-making in crucial moments. While the stars were grabbing headlines, Michaela Timpson was quietly making the kind of impact that championship teams need from every player in their rotation. 7 minutes doesn't sound like much playing time, But Timpson maximized every second she spent on the floor with a career-high rebounding performance that gave Indiana extra possessions and prevented Chicago from gaining any traction on the boards. Rebounding isn't glamorous work, and it rarely generates highlight reel moments that dominate social media feeds. But in a game where every possession matters and momentum can shift in an instant, Timpson's gritty physical work provided the foundation for everything else Indiana accomplished. Multiple times she grabbed boards in heavy traffic, immediately looked up the floor, and fired outlet passes that started fast breaks before Chicago could get back in transition defense. Her efficiency in limited minutes was absolutely remarkable. Every time she checked into the game, she made her presence felt immediately through positioning, effort, and basketball intelligence that belied her rookie status. This kind of instant impact allowed the starters to get crucial rest periods without the team losing any competitive edge or allowing Chicago to make any kind of meaningful run. Against a Sky team that was already showing visible frustration and body language that screamed defeat, those extra possessions became psychological daggers that made Chicago's situation feel even more hopeless. When role players are contributing at this level and making winning plays in limited opportunities, it sends a clear message about organizational depth and commitment to team success over individual statistics. Timpson's rebounding wasn't just about collecting missed shots. She was sealing opponents under the basket to prevent second-chance opportunities, tracking down loose balls in crucial moments, and doing all the dirty work that allows stars to focus on their primary responsibilities. This kind of complete team effort from top to bottom is what separates contenders from pretenders when the games matter most. The rookies' energy was infectious throughout the entire roster. When coaches can trust young players to contribute immediately in high-pressure situations, it creates depth that becomes invaluable during long playoff series where veteran legs get tired and injury concerns multiply. Mitchell's ability to lead the team in two completely different statistical categories while maintaining offensive efficiency illustrated just how complete her development had become. Combining elite scoring with elite playmaking while keeping teammates involved and engaged represents the kind of basketball maturity that usually takes much longer to achieve. This wasn't just one player saving the night through individual brilliance. This was a systematic demonstration of depth, preparation, and collective basketball intelligence that completely overwhelmed an opponent who came in expecting to take advantage of perceived weakness. When rookies like Timpson are stepping into pressure situations and producing immediately, it reveals something special about organizational culture and player development. The reality for Chicago was absolutely brutal and impossible to ignore. A fever team missing their biggest star, their most recognizable name, and their primary offensive catalyst had just handled them from opening tip to final buzzer. The systematic nature of the defeat made it even more demoralizing because there was no single moment or lucky break that Chicago could point to as the turning point. Indiana controlled the first quarter, extended their lead in the second quarter, maintained their advantage through the third quarter, and put the game completely away in the fourth quarter. This was methodical destruction that left no doubt about which team was better prepared, better coached, and more committed to executing their game plan. Every quarter brought new evidence of Indiana's superiority. The lead grew from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 25 points, with Chicago unable to mount any sustained resistance or create any momentum that might change the trajectory of the game. This wasn't a case of one team getting lucky breaks or hot shooting covering up fundamental deficiencies. This was organizational superiority being displayed for 40 minutes of basketball. The implications for Chicago's psyche and confidence moving forward couldn't be overstated. Getting dominated by a team missing their best player exposes weaknesses that go far beyond individual matchups or tactical adjustments. It raises questions about effort, preparation, and collective will to compete that are much harder to address than simple scheme modifications. For Indiana, the performance provided validation that their success wasn't dependent on any single player, no matter how talented or important that player might be. The depth they had built through smart drafting, player development, and cultural construction was real and sustainable. This kind of comprehensive team victory in a crucial game creates confidence and momentum that can carry a team through difficult stretches and challenging playoff series. The warning for the rest of the league was clear and ominous. if Indiana could dominate quality opponents without their superstar? What would happen when Caitlin Clark returned healthy and ready to contribute? The foundation was already in place, the chemistry was already developed, and the confidence was already established. Clark's return would only amplify strengths that were already championship caliber. Chicago's coaching staff had to be wondering how their team could look so completely overmatched against an opponent they expected to handle easily. The systematic nature of their defeat suggested problems that went beyond individual player matchups into more fundamental areas like effort, execution, and mental toughness when facing adversity. Indiana's systematic dominance revealed itself through complete control of every meaningful statistical category and every crucial moment throughout the 40-minute game. This was a situation where they got hot from three-point range for one quarter and rode that shooting surge to victory. This was sustained excellence across all areas of basketball competition. The dismissive assessment that Chicago represented a team we're supposed to beat might have sounded arrogant coming from some organizations, but Indiana had earned the right to that confidence through consistent results. Sweeping Chicago 4 times in a single season isn't luck or coincidence. It's systematic superiority being displayed repeatedly against the same opponent. The historical context made Chicago's latest defeat even more embarrassing. A 7-1 record against their supposed rivals over 2 years meant that every meeting had become predictable in its outcome, with only the margin of victory remaining in question. Each loss to Indiana seemed to increase Chicago's frustration while simultaneously boosting Indiana's confidence for future meetings. Chicago's inability to compete, even when Indiana was supposedly vulnerable, exposed fundamental gaps between these organizations that went far beyond individual talent evaluation. Culture, preparation, execution under pressure, and collective commitment to team success all favored Indiana so significantly that personnel advantages became irrelevant. The proof of Indiana's ability to dominate without their most famous player carried implications that extended far beyond the single game. If depth players were capable of stepping up this dramatically in crucial moments, what would happen when Clark returned and those same players could focus on their more specialized roles? Every victory over Chicago